Hey guys, thanks for joining me on today's episode of Faith, Hope, Love, where we grow together in our faith, increase in hope, and learn how to better love God and love other people. On today's episode, we are in our What's Your Type Enneagram series, and we are joined by Robby and Morgan Maxey of the Maxey Co. So thanks guys so much for joining me on this show today. Would you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and answer our obvious question, what's your type?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
thanks for having us on.
Yes, very appreciative. So my name is Morgan Maxey. I married Robby Maxey
Nice.
2
Good
years
choice.
ago.
Really good choice.
I'm an Enneagram type 1 and Robby is a type 7. And a fun fact about us is that we found love on an airplane. So
Southwest.
we sat next to
Hearts.
each other on a Southwest plane, which if you know anything about Enneagram type 7s, they love the spontaneity and the adventure of things. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's why we got married. Just kidding.
That was it. The adventure's over.
There's a lot of reasons. He's great. 1s and 7s complement each other well. And ultimately, we started the Maxey Co. because we share the same values and mission as you, where we just want to make sure that we're helping people have healthy relationships, because that is really the cornerstone to having a good life. It's all about relationships.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. So yeah, I guess Robby, 7 from Sacramento. Both of us went to CBU, and we fell into the Enneagram because the Christian schools typically love to do Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs, all these different things to get kids kind of thinking about what they're good at, what their passions are. And so we started with Strengths Finder.
Yeah.
Right. And you got Woo.
I did.
Which I don't know how I feel about that.
Woo.
But you got Woo. And then, so we kind of naturally gravitated towards the Enneagram a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan started a business to really help young women, reconnect with their authentic selves. I think in today's world where we're all just bombarded with so much social media, you kind of forget who you are and you start thinking about, you start shoulding all over yourselves, as we say. I should be like this. I should look like that. I should do this. And Morgan really wanted to help reconnect people with their authentic self. Like, who are you really at your core? And so that's kind of where it started, and what it's blossomed into is we just love going to organizations and churches and groups and speaking about the Enneagram.
I love it. I think it's so beautiful that you've not only incorporated it into your life, but you're now encouraging and supporting other people as they want to grow, and not just who they are as individuals and their faith, but also growing in relationships. So, with that, how long have you guys been studying the Enneagram, and how do you feel like it's personally impacted your marriage?
Yeah, so 3 years, and personally, it's impacted our marriage in so many ways. I think I used to think Robby as a type 7 and type B-ness that he brings to the table as an inconvenience or slowing me down. I was always afraid of being slowed down. But what I've learned is that there's so much growth that can happen in a spontaneous moment, and how honestly essential it is to be the best one I can be, because I'm an Enneagram type 1. You can't be rigid all the time, and I definitely thought that was possible. Perfection is not something to be obtained. It's literally not possible at all. And Robby just helps me see a lot of times how
imperfect you are.
How imperfect I am.
Yes.
No. But honestly, how much value comes in imperfections. It just shows that I'm human. And if you can't show that you're human to other people, you're not going to be approachable. And I think ever since I've married you, I'd like to say I've learned how to be a little bit more human.
Yeah, you have, which is nice because it gives me an excuse to be human, which is nice. So Morgan, the ones are so hyper vigilant, and they're so, the way they rest is just by working on something else. Right now we bought a house. I'm trying to buy an L-shaped couch because I'm trying to relax. And Morgan, it was weird because when I said that, you were like, what do you mean? I'm like, I need a couch, to lay down on and to relax. And you were like, well, I just don't sit down. So I honestly don't know what you're talking about.
Sure, I don't sit on the couch.
She doesn't get it. We have this $80 couch we found on Facebook Marketplace. I can't even veg anymore. So it's just, so anyways, the Enneagram has really, I think, helped Morgan show, and me seeing Morgan, what I saw as this really maybe stringent, kind of tightly wound part of her as actually this huge strength for our family. Her really attention to detail, and really her energy, and really her drive is what actually helped us buy this last house. If she wasn't looking at Zillow constantly and contacting agents, we never would have found this. And so me seeing that and thinking about all the things she does for her family and seeing it as actually a gift for us, and her vice versa for me, it has been pretty huge.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Everybody has their strengths.
Yes, and weaknesses.
I feel like it's so easy when you're married, you're living with this person 24/7, and it's can be a lot. My husband and I have been married for 10 years now. And at the beginning, it was like so easy almost to like see each other's flaws, because when you're newlyweds, like that's all you see. When you're all tired, you're working too much, you're in school, there's just so many other things going on. You're stressed out. And I feel like it's so easy just to fall into like seeing the negatives of one another. But I feel like for me in our marriage, I'm a 3, he's a 1. I feel like the Enneagram has really helped us to see the blessings that each one of us brings to the table in our marriage. The Enneagram is such a great tool, obviously in conjunction with the gospel, to really help us to see our potential and our God-given gifts. So I think it's so, so powerful. I would love to hear, obviously you guys do a lot. You mentioned speaking. What are some of the things that you guys do with the Enneagram, and how do you feel like you've used the Enneagram to help people to grow in more healthy and more loving relationships?
Yeah, so when we go and speak to places, we'll have everybody take the test before we go there. So they have kind of a rough idea of who they are, and kind of at least it gets them thinking before we speak. So, and because it's kind of a lot of information at once, so we want our audience to at least have a taste of it before we go talk to them. I think the best part about it is what we love doing is we actually try to make it pretty fun and funny.
Yeah.
And Morgan and I kind of rip on each other the whole time.
Yeah,
so they know like we're aware of our flaws. She's aware of mine. I'm aware of hers. We're just human.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
You can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn to laugh at yourself. And so that part makes it really fun for the audience. And then we have a really honest Q&A session at the end, I would say. Mm-hmm. And we typically stay for an hour after each presentation. People coming up to us. And I think what we try mainly to help people see is that there's beauty in every single number. So we were in Lodi one time, and this guy came up. He was a 1, and he was just like, I would give anything to be a 7. Yeah. 7s are just the best. They're more fun. They're more exciting. People want to be around them. I mean, it's a brag on 7s. But it was like, no, you don't, no, that's not true. There's not a good or bad number. There are numbers in health and our numbers in stress, and every number in health is incredible. Mm-hmm. And so I think we try to debunk some of those stereotypes around numbers and tell that guy, hey, well, actually you're a 1. When you're healthy, you do go to a 7. Yes. So that's probably why you love that so much, because that reflects a great time for you, and you're in a great headspace when you're behaving that way.
And I'll piggyback off of that. And another thing that we really love to do is we do a mixer game of sorts. So a lot of times when we're talking about the Enneagram, yes, it's really important to know yourself really well, but it's also really important to be attuned to the people around you and the way that they have preferences. And I think if you go at life with an all about me perspective, you're going to lose. And if you go at life with an all about you or other people perspective, you're going to win. And giving people the opportunity to learn about the people that they're in community with has been really great. We've done our workshops for college students, which is great. We've done small businesses, some church leadership staffs, and of course our college sorority students, which the sorority girls are great. They basically just want to know if the person they're dating is compatible for them.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
They got their priorities. It's okay.
Probably not, but maybe.
I love it. I really feel like that would be so helpful. Like going into marriage counseling or like premarital would be so helpful to understand like the way you're wired, and not just like, hey, how do you feel about money, and like how do you feel about these like hot button issues, but like how are your internal wirings in health and stress gonna benefit or like stress your marriage, and how do you work through that? So I think the Enneagram is such a great tool. I would love to kind of dive into like the bulk of our time together. I would love to kind of go type by type and kind of discuss what it looks like for each type to receive love, how to communicate with them. I know for me, understanding that about my husband has been so helpful, understanding how my friends receive love. So this is not just about marriage. Can we just go type by type, maybe starting with type 1?
Oh, of course.
Let's do it.
Chronological order is the best.
Nice.
Okay, so type 1.
There we go.
How to love me the best. Listen up.
This is mine.
I would say appreciating our work ethic is huge. Our rigidity is sometimes frowned upon, and we get beat up for it, even though our rigidity is really needed. And so when someone just comes in and says, hey, like, I really appreciated how you like did the laundry and cleaned the house before people came over. That was a great move. I would say thank you. I love that. Letting them know that they're good. Ones should all over themselves. Everything could, should, would be a little bit better in our world. And so letting them know that what they brought to the table was good enough, I think is super important. Taking your share of responsibility. Robby's done a great job at this. He'll come home. You do. You'll come home and you'll clean the house for me because I have to study, or he'll say like, go hang out with a girlfriend. Like I'll clean the house, like go get the groceries, something like that. And for me, that's great because it's hard for me to have fun if responsibility isn't taken care of. But if you take care of a little bit of responsibility, I can go have some fun.
There you go. And just to clarify, I'm telling you to go hang out with a girlfriend, not the other way around.
Correct.
Kind of got a little murky there. I want to make sure our listeners know.
Robby doesn't have a girlfriend.
I don't. I was about to say I'm single for some reason.
You're not single. You're married to me.
This is really taking a turn for the worse.
Anyway.
I would say what I've seen with Morgan is ones I feel are that classic number that, you know, when they were in high school, Morgan would help a lot of kids out with their homework.
Yes.
Because she just wanted to be helpful. She wanted to be good. That's what a good kid does, right? We help each other out. And I think as you've gone into adulthood, you appreciate it so much when someone takes the work off of your plate for a change. Mm-hmm. And so you can actually access that 7 and have some fun. Because until the details are done, the work is done, ones don't feel like they can loosen up.
It's true.
And so kind of taking some work off their plate, getting the dishes done or whatever, you're able to just let your hair down and relax a little bit.
Melissa, is there anything you'd like to add being married to a 1?
Yeah. So obviously, like before we did the Enneagram, we really looked at like the love languages, and I'm like very much like words of affirmation, but he is acts of service. And like as a 1, I could like affirm him and like tell him how proud I am of him, like how much I appreciate him working so hard. He's like incredible at work. He just goes into, he's a manager, and like going into his job, he sees all the things that could improve and he just makes it happen. And so I am very affirming of him providing for our family. But he also needs the acts of service piece. So like me cleaning the house and making sure that I'm blessing him in that way, that is huge, huge, huge for him. And just like an unspoken way of just showing him that I care. So yeah, that's huge. How about type 2s? Let's take a look at how they receive love and communicate.
Yeah, so type 2 is the helper. So these are the people who are so hospitable, thinking of others all the time, always putting others' needs before their own. And so they're kind of constantly thinking about, and when they're healthy, how do I serve others and help them feel special and valued and appreciated? And so a couple tips we have for them, for us, is we love doing just because things. And so, sometimes we always think we need a reason to do something for somebody else. Sometimes the best reason is like, just because I love you and I know you and I care about you and I want you to feel appreciated back. And so, baking some cookies, writing them a letter, giving them a phone call. How much time do we waste in the car when we are listening to music? We could just be calling a friend. Mm-hmm. So call your 2 friends, just let them know, hey, I was just thinking about you. Mm-hmm. Letting them know you really value their friendship and their advice and how you see they're always looking to serve others. I think one thing 2s can do is really focus on other people's problems instead of kind of opening up about their own. They're like so attuned to like what's going on with you that sometimes it's kind of tough for them to let that guard down and let other people in. And so coming at them in a way that's really not intimidating and just really loving and just asking like, hey, would you mind sharing with me kind of what's going on? Like, how's work? I mean, how you just got married? How's marriage? How are things going for you? Mm-hmm. And just kind of giving them that chance to just kind of, air out what's going on in their lives would be really special for them. What do you think?
I agree. My mother-in-law, his mom is a 2, and she just really appreciates, even if she like bought me a scrunchie and I take a photo with the scrunchie in my hair and say, I love my new scrunchie, thanks, and send it to her. She just loves knowing that she was thought of in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's the one I would hone in on for 2s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to our 3s, our busybody people. We love our 3s. So I would say that 3s, they really value when you tell them that they are a great person, not because they ran a marathon or got the promotion. Like, they're a great person because their soul is just good. Mm-hmm. I think 3s often hear like, wow, you're so great for your work ethic. You're so great for this, that, and the other. And oftentimes I think it can be hard to feel like you are good for just being. So with my 3 friends, I like to affirm them in that and encourage them to rest, which I obviously need to encourage myself to rest more. But Rest is also really good for our type 3s. And then affirm their hard work. Definitely, if you see that they're putting in the extra hours, affirm that and give them space to do that. That might be that your Enneagram type 3 friend isn't available to hang out until next month because they're really working on this goal. And if you show that you love and respect them in a way, basically, if you just say like, hey, I'm giving you this month to just focus on your goals so you can get there, 3s just feel so calmed by that because they don't have to worry about if their community feels loved by them. They're like, okay, I have permission to go do all the things. I think that's a wonderful gift.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Why, thank you.
Well, okay, that's easy. Okay. I think, probably the biggest thing Morgan said that I agree with is when we're talking about the Enneagram and we're thinking about like, where do people find their identity and where do they think they add value? And it can get unhealthy to where 3s start to identify with external achievements. Like, I need to run the marathon because like that's who I am and that's why people love me. Like I need to go write a book or I need to go learn whatever, accomplish whatever, get that promotion because that's literally like that's my identity. Like that's how I bring value to the table and that's why people like me. I mean, sometimes when we're speaking, Morgan talks about, put your hair up in a bun, grab some ice cream with that person, be in your PJs and just like watch a movie or just chat about life with them and then let them know, like, it kind of just lets that person know at your core, I like you. So like, I don't like all the external. I love that. I'm proud of you, but I like you. And I'm fine just sitting down with you, just relaxing with you. You can be yourself. And so I think, the Enneagram, what you find is where people find their value. Like as a 7, I find a lot, like, I just want to be fun. And sometimes I just want to know, like, I'm loved for like, Robby, my struggles or my insecurities, all of that together. So that's how I do it for our 3s.
Nicely said. Anything you'd like to add?
As a 3, like I know for me, being able to obviously have friends like celebrate when I like win at something, but also being there when I fail. Like I think that's something like a huge fear of mine is failure and abandonment because failure. And so to have friends come alongside and say, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to achieve for me to love you. I know my husband, obviously we've been married for 10 years. We've gone through a lot of lots of things and a lot of difficult stuff. And to have him be able to say like, I don't view that as failure and I love you even if you feel like that was a failure. So man, I think just to have people like stick with you, like the ride or die kind of relationships and not have to show up perfect or with like this beautiful facade or, whatever. Like I think just to be able to show up authentically, 3s really need that. So yeah, let's jump into type 4.
Nicely said. So for our 4s, I would say be a consistent friend. Most importantly, never forget their birthday. 4s love their birthday. I've never found a 4 that doesn't love their birthday. My friend Elvira, shout out to Elvira. Before I had just met her and I was like, how do you feel about your birthday? And she's like, I love my birthday. And she got so excited. I was like, I knew you would. Just like that is their special day. It's their unique holiday. Very much so important to celebrate that for them. I would say giving them compliments is nice, appreciating their individuality. So if they're wearing like a new trend that they haven't worn before, like complimenting them in that journey of self-discovery through expression of clothing. I think that is always really good for our type 4s. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's another major thing I would love to add for our 4s.
Well, let them be themselves is huge. Like accept them for their uniqueness. Don't try to change them. Don't try to make them conform to what everybody else is doing. Kind of just let them explore themselves in their own way. And then
I remember.
Not cheering them up when they're sad.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes they do not want to be cheered up. They experience the whole spectrum of emotions, and that's really a blessing. And so
have you seen the movie Inside Out? It's a wonderful movie. That movie.
Yes,
Me too. The whole basics of the premise of that movie, if you guys haven't seen it before, is essentially you can't experience real joy. Wow, without an absence of sadness. Sadness is just a part of life, and being able to sit in that is a really great character trait to have. So letting your 4s, if they are sad or feeling a little bit melancholic, let them sit in that.
Yeah.
It's really how they form opinions and express themselves in the world.
Yeah, they like to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Let them feel.
Yeah. What's your trademark saying? 4s have.
Oh, the gift of empathy, not the burden of emotions. That's what I love to say about our 4s.
I love that. I love that.
Cool.
I forgot all that.
They feel very deeply. That's a great thing.
It is great.
Yeah.
And then our 5s, I'll let you take this away. Since
All
your
right.
best friend is
Our
a 5.
fives are trivia all-stars. So I get along with 5s really well because 7 going to a 5 when I'm healthy. Like I just respect them so much. I'm like, gosh, you are what I want to be. So our 5s are, it's interesting, being a 7, you always think people just want to talk all the time and just kind of socialize. I mean, my best friend is a 5. And so, I'll be driving home from work. I'll call him all the time and he won't pick up the phone. I'm like, I've known you for like 10 years, dude. Just pick up the phone. He's like, I honestly just hate phone calls. I'd rather text you. I'm like, okay, fine. So
funny.
There's times where, our 5s, they can definitely show up when they need to, but they love to recharge. They love introverted time. And there's some extroverted 5s. I'm not saying all of them are introverted, but 5s do just love alone time. And so sometimes I think we think love is like, I'm always here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. We can talk whenever you want. I'm all over you. I love you so much. It's like easy. Give that person a break. Let them retreat to their room and do a little research on whatever they're interested in at the time. Asking them what they're researching is huge. Kind of giving them that freedom and let them go into whatever that unique thing is that really interests them.
Can I share this story about my brother?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so my brother is an Enneagram type 5. And we were on a family vacation together, and I looked over at him and I was like, I'm going to activate some Enneagram knowledge. And I was like, so Mason, what have you been researching recently? What do you, and he just lit up. He's like, honestly, Morgan, really he's cool, actually. I've been researching sourdough bread and I want to make my own loaf. And he's like, and I'm really excited about it. He's like, it could be complicated, but I'm just so excited about it. And just also, that's another thing. The Enneagram is so important because you're giving little spurts of joy when you know how to best interact with somebody. And seeing my brother light up talking about something he was interested in made my day. And it made his day. So it was great.
No, that's so true.
That story makes me laugh every time.
Because sometimes if they're not comfortable in a social situation, they can take a back seat and just kind of survey the room. So to bring them out of their shell by saying hey, I'm actually interested in what you've been researching. Yeah. Oh my gosh. They love that freedom to just start talking. It's really funny. Yeah.
I feel like it's just so loving just to be able to ask good questions. And I think understanding each number, what they want to talk about, and I think that's a big part of understanding and knowing each other is not just giving love to people, but understanding them. Having conversation is a big part of that. So I love that you found ways to engage, with your brother and obviously with your friend too. I think that's awesome. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You. And I really do feel like communication is kind of a lost art in our society. We've had a couple of years of the world being shut down. And then aside from that, Instagram is so promoting your brand, which basically just means promoting yourself, but we say brand, so we feel less narcissistic. And I think what happens is you just have a lot of people saying me, this is what I do, this is what I like to do. And you really lose the touch of asking questions or asking other people around you, how are you doing? I've seen it in myself when I'm unhealthy. I'm wow, I'm talking a lot about myself. This is embarrassing. But social media has really cultivated this normalcy around talking about yourself a lot and being all about branding. So anyways, on to our type 6. My college roommate was an Enneagram type 6. And I think what I like to say a lot about our type 6 friends is that they sometimes struggle a lot with analysis paralysis. They have this little worry syndrome that can go on. And a lot of times what happens, because they don't want to burden the people around them, is they'll keep it all in their head. And they'll kind of have this little teeter-totter in their head of should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do it? Because they don't want to burden you. And I think the best gift you can give to a 6 is saying what are you thinking about? What are you processing? It's really not a burden at all. I'm just curious. I'd love to hear your thought process on that. 6s just look so much lighter when they've had the time to process something.
Yeah, it's
get
true.
Out of their head for sure.
It's true. And I think, one thing we like to say is when each number does a little thing, well, or they're acting in a healthy way, just kind of verbally affirming, hey, I noticed that. That was really cool. So 6s, I always like to say, if a 7 is at a concert, their front row, just they're leaning over the bar, trying to touch them. I've done that. Your 6 friend is aware of where the exits are. They're aware of how close the guy behind them is standing and that everybody's drunk. And they're just this could go bad real fast. And so anytime that they kind of take that step to kind of get out of their head and just enjoy themselves, or maybe be a little bit more bold or create or courageous, just kind of verbally affirming like, hey, I noticed that. I thought that was really cool. Or I just noticed that took a leap of faith to just kind of get out of your head and enjoy where you were for the moment. And I thought that was great.
I have a good one for this one. So also for Enneagram type 6s, you know when you go out to a restaurant and there's always those chairs that have their back to the door?
Yes.
I would say let your Enneagram 6 friend pick the spot where they want to sit, because bet you they're thinking like, what's the best and safest spot? So let them pick.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Actually,
that's like
I totally agree. Give them like some I guess ownership over that moment to kind of like lead, because they're always thinking ahead. They're kind of proactive in their approach for those situations. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I affirm that.
Thank you.
Two of my best friends are 6s. One is a 6-7, one is a 6-5, and they are totally different in the way that they look, but they are like some of the most like loyal people ever. And I've been friends with them forever. And I think a big thing I've noticed is like, they are so good at initiating with me. And I'm like, man, I got to be more proactive in initiating and asking them how they're doing, especially with COVID, like with so much anxiety in our world. They were super prepared. They immediately knew what to do. But like, yes, they were ready. But like with like the anxiety, like really checking in on them and like just being intentional, because again, like these are like some of the like best friends I've had, because they are so loyal and they're just there, you know, and some deep friendship. And I think being able to invest in that and be intentional, it's really important.
Yeah. So true.
Nicely said.
Yeah, that was really well said. Sometimes we definitely forget that there's that person who's probably reaching out to us all the time, and maybe it's our turn to return the favor.
Oh, absolutely.
We've never done that.
Never. We're perfect.
We literally do that all the time. We could get a lot better at that.
For 7.
Okay, so 7s, type 7s
are. I love you better.
Yeah, well, just sit down and get comfortable. This will be a long time. So literally 7s love when people engage in stimulating laughter, in experiences, in kind of just letting moments be fun and not serious, and just kind of letting your inner kid out. So I would say every chance you get, engage in some stimulating laughter with them. 7s probably aren't going to let you take yourself that seriously. So just kind of like let it happen. Just like let yourself be a little kid again around them, I would say. Oh, yeah. Like I love, if I'm ever feeling down, I'll just turn on comedy shows just so I can laugh. I just want to laugh all the time. Sure. And so that's a great way. You know, one thing, we heard this at a conference one time, so we stole it. So whoever said this, we did not trademark this, but I thought it was really good. We need to give them companionship, affection, and freedom all at the same time. So really not too complicated.
It's a lot of work.
7s are interesting. They want that companionship and like that really intimate bond with somebody, but also we definitely want independence, and we don't want anybody to slow us down on our crazy ideas. And we kind of have this great, very long-winded vision of how we see the future playing out and different big ideas. And we kind of want somebody there, but we don't want to be, what's the word? Kind of like overshadowed, somebody just kind of hovering over us all the time. So it's tough. It's kind of finding that balance of like, all right, have I been around this person too long? Do I need to give them some space? And so their relationships can be really, really tricky. You know, I would say at certain times, other numbers, you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because a 7's probably not going to be taking care of you. I'm having enough difficulty taking care of myself, to be honest. Of me sometimes. It's true. And 7s in health right now are probably like, what the heck, I'm fine. It's true. But definitely, I think there's times where I forget to drink water.
You value people who are like self-assured and just like independent.
Absolutely. Yeah, because literally, like, I'll have these sins where I just like forget to drink water or forget to eat, because I'm just like in the moment, right? And sometimes we do podcasts like this or presentations. I wouldn't eat or drink water before, and we would just beeline it for Chick-fil-A right after these presentations. So I'm like, I just didn't take care of myself. Yeah. So I think a 7 at their core, they just want to have fun. And I mean that in the most complimentary way. I think they see life as a gift. which is so special. And they really bring the joy out of any little situation. So
like company culture builders.
You
guys all need to hire a 7.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. You know, really kind of being that spunk and fun and really just dull situation. You know, we're going to grab gas, or we're just going to sit through the drive-thru, we're taking the dog on the walk, whatever. I think 7s just have the ability to see the potential in a moment and bring life to it. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, man, let a 7 operate. Let them do that in that situation. Don't try to suppress their energy and their ideas and their creativity. Let them see those things as strengths and not immaturity.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I actually want to chip in too. My brother is a 7, and as in high school, I would just get so irritated because as a 3, I'm like, you got to be more serious. Like, what are your goals? What's the plan?
Oh yeah. And what are your goals? What's your 5-year plan?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And whereas he it just took a little bit more time for him to find out his thing, and he's a helicopter pilot and is awesome at it. It's the best job for him, literally ever. And he's really great. And it's also cool seeing him as an uncle because he's just so fun with my boys, and obviously he can't come over before bedtime because it gets them riled up, but they love him. And I think there's just it's so cool to have seen him grow and develop into himself, and for me to be able to affirm his goals and just support him. Because I think again 7s can get a bad rap for just being flighty, but man, when they have set their sights on something that gives them life, I mean, we got to really affirm that. But yeah, I love my brother.
So good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Morgan, when we're around kids, I can be quite the nuisance.
I used to say, I was like, we can have kids when I can see you can bring the kids down.
Great.
I'm getting that
I'm incapable.
It's crazy.
Incapable.
It's like you're Santa or something.
I know.
They're just
I love playing with kids.
They freak out.
So
and I'm
much
just
fun.
The house is messy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a good point. Yeah, I love 7s too. They're great people. A lot of my best friends are 7s actually.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing we also try to tell people about.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on. But usually in good relationships, you actually share a line with the person. Mm-hmm. And so, 1, 7, 1, 7, my best friends are 5s. Morgan gets along with 4s really, really well. Mm-hmm. And 7s, obviously. So thinking about the people in your life, it's cool to see. There's probably a reason you admire their traits because you share that health and stress line with them.
Yeah. Okay, then moving on to our 8s. So I've thought a lot about 8s. A lot.
Everybody
because
needs an 8.
They are a very polarizing number, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. And I think we were discussing it earlier today. 8s are on a train and they're moving. And you can hop on the train. And if you don't, that's fine. They're going to keep moving. Yeah. And I think for our more sensitive numbers, our 2s, that might be a little bit hurtful. Because you don't need me to keep moving. And then the 8 will say,
they do not.
No, I'm fine. And I think being willing to join them on the aspects of when they're moving. So example, we have a friend, he's training for a marathon, and he texted us this morning and he was like, hey, would you guys like to go on a run with me? We're like, sure, absolutely. So we ran with him to help him train for his marathon. And then we had breakfast at our home afterwards. And then he went on his way to probably achieve something amazing. And being able to come alongside our 8s, I think is very important. And to be able to understand that they're not benders necessarily. They have their sights on something, and it can feel selfish. It definitely can, but that is their natural wiring. So you don't
feel intimidating.
It can be really intimidating because they don't really need your buy-in to be okay with who they are. Sometimes they do, but in the general sense, I feel they're pretty self-assured. Yeah.
I think I was thinking about that today. So our friend Philip that Morgan was referring to is training for his marathon. Shout out Philip. It was like, Philip, what time do you want to run? He's like, I'll be at your house at 4:30 to run my early miles. And then we can run at 5.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, dude.
Okay.
And so he comes at 4. He is on the dot at 4:30. He's never late. That's not a thing in his vocabulary.
Yeah.
He gets here at 4:30, runs in a mile before we're even up, comes to the door. We start running at 5. We run with him. He's like, yeah, so my warm-up miles, we can run together. And then I'll take off. And then I'll come find you later on the run. Mm-hmm. And we're no scrubs. We both ran marathons.
Yeah.
No, 10 seconds, we don't see him again until he comes back eventually and meets us. Mm-hmm. And then, he's like, all right, I know that I'm going to be here until about 8 o'clock. And then I got to get going. And I'm not going to linger. I got my next thing to do. And so I think why 8s are really good for people is that they're that person in your life that's going to eliminate all of your excuses, which we really need. We really need someone to be like, you're being weak. You need someone to tell you how it is. You really do. Especially, I really feel, millennials get a bad rep, but I feel today we're a little coddled. There's definitely, just a little, there's definitely times where I'm just like, I just want to give up. And 8s are those people you need to be like, no, you're just giving up. Keep going. So I think everybody needs an 8. They can be really intimidating, but for sure. Everybody needs an 8.
Yes, and I would say yes. Definitely a number, to be candid, that I have struggled with at times, because as a 1, we're also very rigid and we have our own mental rule book for life. 1s are very black and white. 8s are also pretty black and white, and they have their rule book. And so you can sometimes get that friction. But what I would like to say about 8s is, if you're looking to how to better get along with 1, I would just say that honestly, they love intensity. And sometimes that comes across in debates or disagreements. And it's not necessarily that they don't like you or your opinion. They just love a good debate and an exchange of ideas in an intense manner. They're not angry at you. And I wish I would have understood that more about 8s sooner.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier.
Being rude. They're just
sometimes.
Sometimes they're being very rude.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like, man, it's nice to have a healthy, honest conversation. We don't have to dance around it. How many times are we sitting here with people who are like, I have no idea how they feel about me. You don't have to guess that with an 8.
You'll know.
You'll know. And like, that's actually pretty freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I would say one of my best friends, she's actually my spiritual mentor. She's an 8, a healthy 8. And it's been really cool because as a 3 and her as an 8, we're both very future focused. And so for me to be able to bare my soul and say, this is all my brokenness, I don't want to show anybody else, but I'll show you. Yeah. So she's just really like held me accountable to some stuff. And I found, she's opened herself up with me as well. And a big thing that I've found with her is not really, I guess allowing her to be vulnerable and not saying that it's her weakness, and for her to be able to identify vulnerability as strength. Man, it's like really, really cool because I just have seen her grow so much over the last couple years. Obviously, she's made a huge impact on my life, really to help me to move forward and to leave behind the baggage and stuff. Like just really having 8s in your corners that can really support you and like speak like honest truth. And when they speak like goodness over you, man, it is so powerful and inspiring too. So I love 8s. I have a couple really good 8s in my like group, and man, they are like powerhouses.
Whatever they do, they're all in, which is really cool. Something I'm learning to do. So our 9s, how do we get along with our 9s? So I think the 9s for me, playing basketball, I played a little bit of basketball in high school and college. And I really loved it when a coach would like yell at me and like it just pumped me up and it made me want to go harder. I love that. That's kind of like my 8 wing. But the 9s, if you ever interacted with a 9, that's not really how they're interested in being spoken to. It doesn't pump them up. It like shuts something down in their brain and they're like, I'm done. I'm not gonna run anymore. And that was like my first eye-opening moment to like, oh yeah, I guess not everybody is motivated the same way or wants to be spoken to in the same way. That's not how you get the most out of that person. And so my brother's actually a 9. And that is not how you get the most out of my brother. Nope. That's just like not something he's interested in. We have a lot of other 9 friends, and so I think the 9s get a really bad rap because they kind of have that slothful piece of them attached to them a lot. I think when people find out they're 9s, they're like, oh no, I'm lazy. And it's like, no, okay. That's like one of the things we've spoken about a 9 goes to a 3 in health. Like when you're great, you're really great.
Yeah.
And so I think with our 9s, it's just kind of recognizing that's not how they're motivated. I can't just yell at them and it's going to get them motivated. In health, they're incredible. They're not just this slothful human being. And I think that, there's times where they want to maintain the peace. And so you really just want to be patient with them. Like allow them to make a decision, allow them to know, hey, regardless of what you decide here, we're fine, but I'm going to put the ownership on you and allow you to really have some ownership in our relationship. So don't try to just pile drive them. Let them make a few decisions. Let them decide where you're going to eat. And actually, I don't want to say force them to make the decision, but be like, no, man, this one's on you. I got to know more about you. Feel free to tell me where you're at. It's okay. Mm-hmm. What else? What else do you think with our 9s?
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, one thing I did want to just chime in with the nines. Like one of my good friends that I'm in a ministry group with, she is just such a phenomenal leader. And something I've learned is just taking the time to listen when she's speaking, because she has a lot of amazing things to share, just a beautiful heart around ministry. And I think that's a big thing that as threes, I can be like a bulldozer almost. I'm like, okay, let's just get it. Let's just do it. Don't talk about it. Let's just do it. And for me just to take the time just to listen, I feel like has helped me to grow a lot. And then like encourage her when she takes a nap. I'm like, good for you. Like taking care of yourself, like good for you. And not like shaming their need for rest. And as a three, I go to 9 in weakness, but also it's a potential growth line for me in being able to learn, hey, I do need to rest. And my friend is so inspiring to me in that. So yes, I love it.
That's really good. The 9s, you harped on a great point really quick.
The listening.
Yeah, the listening. That's the best. That's probably the best piece of 9, because the 9's core fear is to be seen as unimportant. And how do you tell somebody they're unimportant more than when you interrupt them while they're talking? Mm-hmm. You don't even listen. And so when you're with your 9s, you harped on it perfectly. Just it's time to listen. Let them speak for a little bit and let them feel important. So very well said. Totally agree.
Awesome. I just appreciate you guys again, just for taking the time just to share with us today. Is there anything else you kind of want to add? And before we close, what are some of the things that you guys provide with coaching, speaking, and how can we follow you?
Nice.
Okay. So you can find us on Instagram at the Maxeyco. We are also on Facebook at the Maxeyco.
Nice.
And our website is www.themaxeyco.com.
Pretty easy.
Pretty simple. Max is our last name.
How do they email us?
Hello at the Maxeyco.
Nice. Very nice.
So it's all at the Maxeyco. When in doubt, that's the best way to find us. We hang out on Instagram quite frequently. And I would say if you're interested in pursuing working with us in some way, shape, or form, our ideal client at this time is going to be working with those small businesses or large businesses, churches, schools, just because we have seen so much confidence and freedom that comes from healthy relationships within those specific sectors. Like college is a very confusing time. You don't know yourself. You don't know other people. It's very confusing. And there's just really no way to benefit your culture more than just giving people the opportunity to get to know themselves and the people around them a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. We're huge on the workshops. We love going to these businesses or universities or whatever and just spending 90 minutes with them, debriefing it, and then spending a good chunk of time afterwards kind of doing a little workshop. So
and we're available for in-person and virtual presentations.
We love in-person so much, but it's all virtual. Yeah, but whatever your preference is.
We will gladly do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you guys taking the time. What I just love about this is, obviously God created us for relationship with Him, but also relationships with each other. And I feel like the Enneagram is such a great tool to help facilitate healing and creating healthier, more loving relationships. So thank you guys again just for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us on.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for joining me for today's episode. I hope that you have a great week, and we'll see you back here for next week's episode of our What's Your Type Enneagram series. Have a great week, guys.